Chibes, Chibibes eyes, Tobes eyes, Chibes,
Chibibs.
Tobes McGobes. Well, welcome to the party, brother. How are you, man?
Good, mate. How are you? It's been a long time since I've seen that beautiful head.
Yeah, likewise, dude. Likewise. It was Huey's wedding, wasn't it?
It was actually. That was about a year ago, I think, year and a half ago. And I think we were drinking bourbon at like 3 p.m. or something stupid like that, which wasn't a good idea.
Yes. And then again,
but you had to run off. And then you had to run off, didn't you? Because Laurel needed you. So, yeah.
Yes, I managed to evade a partial debauchery.
I know. I wish Laurel called me as well. I wanted to get out of there as well. Yeah. I've realised as I'm getting older, I just turned 38 and, not really old by any metric, but getting older, I got a kid and I've realised I had a phase in my early 20s where I really liked partying and it was short. It was probably from about 17, 18 to maybe 22. Yeah.
And then I thought that I really liked it, but I guess I just didn't. I realized that it's just I've never been a good partier. I don't
actually out of all the friends groups that we had when we were all living together out in LA, you were actually probably the most level head when it came to partying. I must admit, you were,
and that's not saying much because we were fucking loose then, man.
I know exactly. I'm just saying that you didn't level up like some of the other lads, so that's good for you, mate. That's why you look great.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah. I'm 29. Look at me. I'm screwed.
Yeah.
So,
It's been a hard life. So.
It has.
No, you look good. How old are you now, man?
I'm 46
10 years
now.
On me, right? 46?
46, yeah. My daughter's now 14, so I'm well ahead in the baby. Yeah, I was speaking to her on the phone last night and we have little catch-ups and she's just got the gift of the gab, and every time she's a smart ass. So she's a classic Australian, like just cheeky. Yeah. And sometimes I go, London, you can't talk to people like that. And she just goes, Dad, I'm just a little version of you. And I'm like, good.
Yeah.
You got me there. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Yeah, this is your fault. You can't tell me that I can't do it now. You created this.
You created it. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I'm playing ball with my dog right now as he's running in out of the shot. I'm sorry about that. No,
it's totally fine, man. Yeah. It's okay. So you were saying you're in Vegas and it's dry as dry can be. It's
in Las Vegas.
What are you doing you spend a bit of time in Vegas? Are you based in Vegas? Or are you based in LA?
Me and my girl, we just bought a house in Long Beach. Actually, we moved out of LA.
Oh, congrats, man!
Thank you. And we went down. We wanted to be near the water. And when you're looking at the LA prices, you just slowly, gradually move a little bit further down. So we're in Long Beach and it's amazing actually. And then, but my main job at the moment is playing with my buddies that you would remember, Ben and Bryce. Yeah. We have like a corporate band out here in Vegas. So that's where the work is after COVID. That's kind of where this is like the Wild West. So they just opened up before all the restrictions and just said, come on in, share air with each other and we'll see what happens,
But hang on, But didn't everyone died though because the illness was so terrible that everyone was definitely going to die, right?
I know, exactly. Yeah, I mean, are we alive? So what is this happening? So no, it was good. It's you're as a musician yourself, like, and you guys got hit hard in Australia because I remember
it was the first thing to go, really.
Yeah,
and entertainment. Yeah, when hospitality
it's a hobby.
Industry died. Yeah.
Music's a hobby.
Yeah, and we're completely reliant on the hospitality industry. And when the hospitality industry goes, we're shutting our doors, we're like, where the fuck do we play?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and then, so I think Vegas was like on the forefront of just opening up. And now the city is, it actually worked out really well for a city like Vegas because they've just had so many people coming out here now. And I'm driving around here and just seeing all the new buildings going up. The infrastructure, like all the shows are killing it. They're expecting 500,000 people in the next 3 years. They're getting a baseball team, a basketball team in the next 5.
Wow.
They're getting a train from LA coming out here now. So Vegas is killing it.
That's a game changer. That'll be crazy.
Yeah. And one of the carriages is a wedding chapel, and no shit, one of the carriages on the way back is to get it annulled. I swear to God.
Oh my God.
I swear, it's hilarious. So you can go there with like all these aspirations, and if it fucks up, you can just get it annulled on the way home. So
wow,
yeah,
that's really Vegas is such a fascinating place, man. I went a bunch of times when I lived in LA, and it really is like the Wild West. It still is. You know, everyone knows. Yeah. You know what you're going to Vegas for. Oh, we're going to Vegas. Like it's debauchery. That's what you're going for. You can gamble. You can drink on the fucking street. You can, you know, everything and anything that you want to get your hands on is there. It's all there. It's like just go nuts, and it's just this. And there's something really exciting about it. But I don't know about you, but whenever I would be there for more than a couple of days trying to party and do all that stuff, I'd realize after like one day of it, I was like, I don't know who I was kidding. I can't be here. I can't do this.
Mate, because obviously we don't go on the strip unless we're working. So I don't see any of that anymore. I'm literally, 15 minutes away in a house. We have a gated community. We're just away from it all. We go in there, being normal people. There is normal things that happen in Vegas, I discovered. But but to your point, like because we used to do like a whole weekend. But so you go out the Friday night, come home Sunday night, Monday. But by Sunday, it's literally just because you're getting bullied into drinking that you are. You don't really want to.
Yes.
You want to get the IV drip. Yeah.
It's such an odd town like that, isn't it? I think that, people have this expectation of it being just what we were just describing it as. But it's as you say, it's actually, sure, there's one pocket of like, I'm here on the Gold Coast and it's a very touristy town. And there's the things that people think of the Gold Coast for. Sure, they're there, the theme parks, all that kind of stuff. But then I don't live anywhere near there. I don't go there if I don't have to. Like I don't go down to Surfers Paradise and walk the strip if I can avoid it. My wife and I did it a couple of weeks ago just kind of by accident because there was a restaurant there and we realized, oh shit, there's buskers here. We're right here in the thick of it. This is a different experience right here to what our day-to-day lives are. And Vegas is like that times 1,000.
I know.
There's obviously, but as you're saying, there's infrastructure that's going up there. There's community. There's people that live there. They just don't go into the fucking madness.
Yeah, exactly. And you probably saw the Grand Prix that we had here last October, I think it was, the first Grand Prix in Vegas, and they shut down the whole city. And all of my friends who are in hospitality out here, they couldn't get to work because everything was like, so they hated it. All the locals hated it. And then like one of the training laps was at 3 a.m, and it was just like sound. It was just a disaster. But they're going to do it for the next 10 years. It's good for us because there's entertainment that gets booked with it, but it's a bit of a shit show. Yeah. Vegas, man. I'm ready to go home.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just odd, isn't it, man? Like when you go there, and I remember seeing there was a homeless dude who was just in between 2 different venues that we were walking to. And he kind of really shocked me. I mean, it's always pretty shocking when you have a conversation with a homeless person, but this guy was like, a dude close to me was smoking, and he said to the guy, "Can I have a cigarette?" And the guy goes, "Sure," and gave him a cigarette, and he bites off the filter and then lights it up and smokes it without a filter, and he just fucking pounded this thing, man. Like it was, if he could have injected it, he would have, but he just needed to get that nicotine into him as quick as possible. Yeah. And at first he seemed like he was a pretty with it guy, like actually, because the things that he was saying. And then I realized there had to be some schizophrenia or something going on, because it just was making no sense. He could speak quite coherently, but none of the things he was saying joined in with each other. It was just a stream of consciousness. Yeah. And there's a lot of that. And he's just like living on the street.
There's a lot more now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what is that? What's the situation? Because I know it was bad when I was in LA, and it was always bad in pockets of Vegas. But what's the situation with the homelessness in LA and where you are?
There's a lot of encampments. I don't know if you'd catch up with American news much, but Los Angeles downtown is a bit of a nightmare. Like
there was always Skid Row, which was pretty frightening, but that was like an enclosed community almost, that you just go there at your own peril. But is it just kind of spreading?
I think Skid Row is more like Bel Air now because it's actually more upper class Skid Row. Like it's what's happened. So you remember Little Tokyo, like which is they're beautiful and clean. If you literally step 3 steps outside of Little Tokyo, it's like bang right in front of you. But there's like it's almost like it's been boarded because we take pride in Little Tokyo, but it's just everywhere now, and it's a shame because obviously with COVID and the people who were already poor got even poorer. So it's just hard.
Anyone who was on the edge when COVID hit, they were. Forget it. They were gone. Yeah.
And it's, like even people who were doing well, had to like suddenly scale back a little bit, and understand, you can't live above your means when something like that happens. You have to like scale back and be a little bit more frugal minded, and now we're in election year, which means that everyone else is tightening up their wallets a little bit because we don't know which way it's going to fall. And it's ready to come back to Australia, really. But
it's hectic over there, dude. Hey,
it is.
Have you got any plans to actually do that, or you planted over in the States?
Well, listen, we have the house now, and we want to see that through for a couple of years. And my girl Kia, she's got a family over here, but she loves Australia. She really adores it, and she's like, every time I go, we should just go to Australia. She's like, well, let's, so there's that opportunity, but, I need to work, and this is kind of where it is, and I think with everything in life, if you create your own bubble, you can just go about your business, and, I'm aware of what's out there, but I've just got to look after me and my own, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was thinking about you the other day when we were doing, so I do something similar on obviously a much smaller scale to what you're doing. It's like a cover band. We do classic rock covers we're called the Filthy Animals, and it's I was invited to join the band, which is amazing because they were already going, and the boys are they're old school guys. The rest of the band is pretty much my dad's age. So these are 60s, awesome. 70s, but they've been doing it forever. These guys are like Kerry on the drums was in Dragon, played drums in Dragon in the 70s. And we got Brett on the guitar from Choir Boys. He still plays with Choir Boys. Did all that stuff. Wrote the solo for Run to Paradise.
And you play that every night. Do you open the show and close? Do you open and close with it? Open and close with it?
Mate, I try and get as little Run to Paradise in each set as I can because my voice just can't fucking handle it. But
it's so high, man. Yeah.
It's just insane. Yeah. But they're killer. They're so good. They've been doing it for so long that it's a very easy band to sing in. But it's, and what you're doing, what's it called? Radio XX, is that right?
Radio XX, yeah. So that's the boys back there. So it's, you remember, it's Benny and Bryce that were in Lifehouse. And then Benny he started in Savage Garden back in Australia.
It's funny, Lee, one of our bass players, played in Savage Garden for a really long time. I bet Ben and Lee know each other.
Well, they were together. Savage Garden only had 4 years and that was it. They just did.
Oh, well, then they would definitely know each other, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So, and Ben's created a bit of a vibe out here in Vegas. So he runs an agency and he has a lot of rooms out here. And then during COVID, we played a beach party in LA, and they came down from Vegas, and we set up on the sand and did a socially distanced beach party. Posted on Facebook, 1,000 people turned up because everyone's just eager to party. And we just kind of looked at each other and said, I go, is the Lifehouse going to go back out on the road? And they're like, we don't think so. I go, well, why don't we just do this? And then we started that. It's been 2.5 years, and now we have like clients all around the country and in the Caribbean and Mexico, and we just travel and play big events, and it's like covers on acid. It's just high octane, a lot of fun. We could curate with the client if they want us to. It reminds me of just how I started, like playing covers and rocking out, except with better equipment and better ability, So,
and more self-awareness, like it's
and not drinking before a gig, which is amazing. You can sing so much better. It's crazy. Yeah.
I often think about how I feel like I was born in the wrong era, like these days. Don't get me wrong, it's amazing to be able to get up on stage and play music to people who want to hear you play music. And that's doing the classic rock covers thing that I'm doing, and you're doing a similar thing. I think you guys do a bit more modern stuff. You know, we keep it pretty retro.
But pretty classic, yeah.
Yeah, but it's, you know, people turn up and they're pumped. They're having a good time. Yeah. They're singing along, and it's the best feeling in the world to be able to kind of feed off the band and feed off the audience. You know, we both know and get that. But I often think, like, man, imagine what it would have been like, you know, being on the Sunset Strip in the 80s or even, you know, the 70s, when that rock music, band music, was pop music. That was what people, the main thing that people wanted to do when they went out and had a good time. There was nothing else. That was the thing, and that was the best thing.
Yeah.
And that it just had a completely different gravity around it. You know, there's so many other distractions these days, but that was just like, you know, you look at some of these bands that were big in the 80s and stuff, and some of them are quite shit. Some of them are like, these aren't good songs. These are, you know, like Poison. They're a terrible fucking band, man, but they were so big.
You know what I love about Bret Michaels is that every time he does an interview with an acoustic guitar, and all he knows is G and C. So what he's doing, he's like, and he'll be like, yeah, you know, and he's actually a lovely guy, but it's so funny. And you just know when he's going to play for like the interview, it's just going to be G and C. You just know. And then sure enough, it's G and C. There you go. Yeah. It was just all fanfare. And that was the thing about Sunset Strip, was you'll know, you remember, like, you go down there today or whenever when you lived here as well, people are still dressing and, you know, hoping that it's going to come back, but it's
they keep the dream. Isn't that funny? There's folks that keep the dream alive. You know, they have the full on outfit, the teased up hair, the big cowboy boots, that, you know, all of it. They're going. It hasn't changed for them, and there's a small scene of folks who live that way. Yeah, and it's it's kind of cool, but it's kind of like,
I can see what's going on in your brain right now.
What do? I kind of did it. In this old band I was in Shotgun Alley when I was younger.
Of course, mate.
Yeah, they were doing that, man, and I was like, "Fuck yeah, I'll join this." You know, they were full cock rock, you know, and I was like, "I'm all about it. Let's go." So we would dress up. I wore a bandana on stage, and I would wear my leather jacket, which was completely impractical because it was, you know, you have to take it off after 10 seconds because it gets too hot. And I wore fingerless gloves, and I wore, and I was pretty mellow considering what some of the other guys wore. We went crazy with the 80s vibe, but then pretty quickly I realized we're just emulating something that's already been done. You know, I'd like to do something fresh.
But because Shotgun, you guys, didn't you open up for us at the Gaelic? Was it that night where you played with us?
Yeah, I wasn't in the band then though. That was before. That was the other singer. So that must have been early days with Shotgun, and that was like proper glam, you know.
I was just thinking, you and I could never do the glam because I just don't have the hair for it, mate. I'm just like, there's no way.
Yeah, I mean, I could maybe do Judas Priest. I could do Rob Halford, but that's a different scene, though. You know, I'm not so practiced in that scene.
Yeah, exactly. That's amazing.
I'm sure it'd be welcomed, but I'm not. That's not my thing. You know. That was before I was in the band, and it was funny because so they did an album. Shotgun did an album, and all the songs were written and everything. And it was like the lyrics were just obscene, man. It was kind of funny. It was so obscene, it was funny. And you know, like what's her? Hey, sexy lady, I got something for you. You want to take your clothes off? Ooh, by the time that I'm through. And this is a hit. Just the opening line of one of the opening songs, and I was like, all right, yeah, I'll do it, cool. But when we write new songs, I'm not writing that.
No,
I can't.
But that's why they hired an actor, Mark. They hired an actor so you could perform.
That's true.
So you can pretend to actually put its performance, and then you get your teeth into it the next record and never do that first one again.
That's exactly. And don't get me wrong, it was fun. It was legitimate cock rock. It was a good time, but it wasn't something that I could create in good conscience in that vein. But so that back in the day, that I was going to say, I've forgotten, how do we even meet? Because you were doing Juke Kartel for a long time.
Yeah. I don't know the exact time that we met, but you must have been early 20s. I think.
Well, so when I did Home and Away, I was 18 to 22. 18, 19, 20, 21,
I think it might have been the last season that you did. And I remember when you came to Melbourne, because I remember this when I was thinking of you, and we surprised my mum. She's a Home and Away fan.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yes.
She knew I was coming home from America or whatever, and I said, I'll see you soon. And then I got you to knock on the door, and I hid round the corner.
Right.
And you're like,
I forgot.
And you went, hello, Mrs. Rand, and she went, oh, it's Rick.
More excited to see me than she was to see you.
I know, and then which is usually the case anyway. But that was so that must have been. I think it might have been your last season. Because my mum still tapes. They sit down. They're 81 British scholars from Cambridge University, and they watch Home and Away every freaking night.
It's a powerful drug, man. I was never allowed to watch Home and Away as a kid. And then obviously I got the part on it, and my mum, of course, started watching it, still watches it. Once you get hooked, you cannot, it's a tough one to give up. They say it's harder than heroin, Home and Away.
Okay, right, okay. Because I noticed that, because every time I'm trying to have a conversation, I haven't seen my parents for a year, and I'm like, so anyway, my dad's like, pauses. Yep. Well, someone's about to get married, Toby,
Get your priorities right, Toby. You've called it a terrible time.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's
man,
awesome. So that was that was about 16, 15 years ago, mate. I think,
Because back then, I remember I knew who you were because I watched Rockstar. Mm-hmm. I watched it religiously. And I was idolizing you, man. I remember seeing it going, who's this Aussie dude? He's got a fucking cool hairstyle. I want to have the hairstyle. He's got like tattoos. Right. I'm too scared to get tattoos. Like he's crushing it. And you don't get me wrong. You sang like a machine. It was amazing. The whole thing. I was so into it, and I was so stoked that that we were represented in Australia, and that we were represented by someone like you. It was just fucking cool. And then I remember had the chance to meet you. I don't know how we met, but I remember.
I think it must have been one of those parties that when I came back and we did. I think I went to the TV awards and stuff like that, like the ceremonies, and we went to all these like parties, and I'm pretty sure we hung out at one of those. Yes, and that's where it kind of kicked off.
Yes,
like in the those TV awards, anyway, one of them. Yeah.
I think I even remember I went to there was a gig that maybe, did you guys support, was it Motley Crue?
We supported the Rockstar Supernova when the winner came out. So we came out. It might have been that, because I remember meeting you guys backstage, but maybe we already met at the Horden probably. Yeah. But that's 2007. So you were a baby.
Okay, yeah. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just.
Neither did I, mate. Neither did I. I was just thrust into this world of like just. I don't even know how I'm still here, to be honest with you. But that was an interesting time. Yeah.
You made it out alive, brother.
I made it out alive. I bruised and battered, but now I'm like, I feel the best I've ever felt. Great. And I was 18 years younger then, and I'm like, I was just
So
an idiot.
So I did The Voice a couple of years ago, but which is mildly similar.
That was great. I was rooting for you as well, mate. Like, because you've been doing such good work on your voice, which I've been doing the same the last kind of 10 years. I really studied it because I had some troubles, and when I saw you in The Voice, I'm like, motherfucker, where you been hiding that? And it was awesome.
Thanks.
And you
man.
wore that freaking jacket, which was a throwback.
Yes,
to the glam rock.
Right.
So I saw that. Don't worry about that.
That's right. Thanks, man. Well, I've always been, I don't think we've ever really talked about this, but I've always been intrigued about what was the process for you on Rockstar Supernova, because this wasn't really a thing. It's not the show didn't go for, there was like 3 seasons of Rockstar, and this was like just after Idol, wasn't it?
So it was during Idol. So Idol had been out, I think they started in 2004, and then Rockstar in Excess was 2005. So that was, and if you remember, like everyone in Australia is like, what the hell? In Excess are looking for a new, how do we not know? And obviously the people who are in the know like knew about the show, but I became addicted to that. And we used to have watching parties after, like, because we were still gigging in our band and stuff. And then we used to watch the party.
How old were you
and then
at the time?
26.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when the next season came out, my buddy Glenn, he goes, you got to audition for it. Because it was announced that Tommy Lee and those guys are looking for a singer. So I said, you know what, this will be a lot of fun. So I missed the Melbourne one. I flew up to Sydney, your hometown, and they had like a couple of days, and we just did like we had to audition with Molly Meldrum judging, and a panel of judges, and wow. Just threw it against the wall and saw what happened. And they gave me a phone call and said, "Can you stay in Sydney because we want you to compete for the final tomorrow?" And then. So there was 3 of us that got through from Australia. It was me, and there's a local singer in Sydney called Andre, who's an incredible singer.
I think I know Andre, yeah.
Yeah, and so...
Andre's he's brown, isn't he?
Yeah. He's freaking awesome. He was an awesome dude as well.
Yeah, he's killer.
So, yeah, and I remember we won, and then we got the call. We had to go and get like a visa and then fly over for the auditions in Santa Monica. And there's 50 of us from around the world.
It was just... Okay, so hang on. Let me just pause you here. At this point, what was your intention going into this? Or had you not really thought about it much?
I talked, because I was in the band with the boys,
you guys
became mate to them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we just opened up for Nickelback at the Rod Laver Arena, and we did the Taste of Chaos tour. So we had like a vibe, Triple M started spinning our music, and then we had like a song on a surf video, and all. We were like, it was going pretty good. And then so I just said to the boys, listen, if I do anything with this, I'll just put the band at the forefront. And my buddy made me like a little dog tags, and it had Juke Kartel on them, and I wore them the whole show. And it was always my intention, I didn't know if I was going to win. And the longer that I went on the show, the more I kind of didn't want to win, if it makes sense, because the band was very dysfunctional. It wasn't really going to be an operating band, because Tommy Lee was just still doing Motley Crue, and he was just turning up to the tapings like off his head. Kid Rock had just started dating Pamela Anderson, so he's trashing the back room. It was just and I was like, I don't know if it was a clash of egos
for a TV show, really.
Yeah, it was just interesting. Like the NXS thing is more stable because they're actually a band. They just put this band together for the TV show for Mark Burnett. And but yeah, like the whole time just had that intention.
What was the band for Supernova?
It was they wanted to call it just Supernova, but then there was a band called Supernova, so they had to like change it to Rockstar Supernova, which was a bit of that's a glam rock kind of name, isn't it? So
it is. Immediately, it's like, yeah. So who was in it? It was Tommy on drums.
Tommy on drums was Jason Newsted. Jason Newsted from Metallica, which was probably the most legit. He was. What's funny? Awesome.
I forgot that Jason was in it, but that's probably because he was not carrying on. He was just being a musician and wanting to do a band.
Yep.
And he obviously just faded away.
Well, yeah, so he lived across the road from the house. That we lived in a mansion, and we couldn't have any contact with the outside world for 3.5 months. And he lived across the road. So when the cameras were off, sometimes he'd come over and just hang with us. And and sometimes we'd jam. And he was all about the art, and he was wanting to get to know us because we potentially could be going on the road together. But I think as it all unraveled, he saw what a shit show it was. And he said that he hurt his shoulder pulling an amp off a thing, but I think that was just a bit of a lie.
He was like,
he didn't
I got
want
to
to be in
get
the
out
band.
of this as smoothly and quietly as I can.
Exactly. And he held his head high. So but it was learning curve for me. But so ended up, getting all the way to the end and not winning and just making sure that our band Juke, got signed and they all came over to America and that was it. We started our little journey.
Yeah. So tell me about, I know what my experience was with a show like The Voice, which obviously I did mine in 2020. So, and yours was in 07?
06. Yeah.
06. So there's a good chunk of time of a lot of these singing shows to evolve into a well-oiled machine that suits the I'm a bit skeptical here, but it is what it is. Suits the network and suits the money-making thing rather than focusing on the musicians. I think what was really cool about back when you did it and even the first, I'm friends with Guy Sebastian and his season of Idol and that kind of thing. It genuinely then was about the artists, and you got so many songs and you got so much time singing. And people got to really know who you were as a person, but more importantly, it was less about the sob story of who you are and trying to manipulate people into loving you or hating you. It was just about showing who you are and showing how you perform and what you sound like in many different ways. Whereas, for me, I realized that I made it to the semi-final, so the second last one, top 8 out of all the people that were in, and I sang for less than 5 minutes total. The whole show.
In the whole show?
The whole show. Yeah. The amount of actual time that I was singing songs for all those episodes was, less than 5 minutes. Whereas go back to...
You mean the whole season or just that one night?
The whole season. I would do...
So you did like 60 seconds or 70 seconds of a song?
Yeah, they would give us a 90-second cut of a song. That's what we had to cut it down to. One of them was a battle, which was 45 seconds, so it was half. And I was in, and they kept shortening the show, so there would be less and less and less episodes. So for The Voice, for instance, they've figured out that all of the viewing and the exciting viewing comes from the blind auditions where they turn the chairs, and the rest of it, they're not really interested in curating a great artist to finish. To turn into something afterwards. It's about the show. They just kind of wrap it up as quick as they can. Yeah. And I went into this knowing partially, I went into it knowing a lot more about the industry and about the format and being well aware of what I was getting myself into. But there was still a lot of stuff that I learned doing the show that I was like, wow, this is actually, there are certain things that are a lot more contrived than I thought they would be. What I'm getting at is how much of that what was your inside experience of the show that you did? Was it, did it feel really contrived? Did it feel really organic? Where did that sit for you?
It was probably, compared to The Voice, it's like chalk and cheese. It's actually the same crew. Like, so Rockstar became The Voice. That's the same team. So the whole house band in America was the same house band that was on Rockstar. So it was just
interesting.
I think Mark Burnett saw that to put on. I was so lucky that I was in only 2 seasons of probably one of the best rock and roll TV shows ever. I'd have to, the way it was done. I was grateful for that, but 3.5 months of 200 crew filming 24 hours a day, pretty much. Is it's got to do well, otherwise that how much you really making money on that?
3.5 months.
I was fortunate. 3.5 months. I was,
and it was a tight cast too, wasn't it? How many casts did you
15.
Start with on that?
We had 50 for the audition. I think they auditioned about 30,000 around the world, and then 50 for the auditions, and then they cut it down to 15 for the show, and then each week. And then we were, you do, and it was live. A lot of the shows, we had to film the show sometimes at 4 a.m, so they could put it on air around the world that night for the voting and stuff like that. I'm not sure if you experienced that, like weird times, but I remember like, getting out of bed at 4 a.m. and then having to sing like bloody Radiohead or something. And I'm like, dude, I'm normally getting home at this time. You know, like,
this is not optimal time for singing.
But it was really, I had such good memories of it because we got to showcase our original songs. They put us in like songwriting. All of a sudden they'll just go, all right, guys, we're going to do some songwriting with the band today. So Tommy would come in with Jason and Gilby. They put together like 1.5 minutes of music, and you got to go away, come up with lyrics and melody, and then come back and perform it. And so it was cool, awesome. Man. So, and they would we're sitting in this big hall, and so you come out with your lyrics and you give you a microphone and you rock out, and then they'd be like, yeah, fuck yeah, man. And then it was awesome seeing everyone's perspective on the songwriting and lyrics. Yeah. And so I immediately gravitated to the people where I was like, wow, that was a sick song. And we formed little friendships. And then, but Burnett, the guy who he's responsible for The Bachelor and all these shows. If people are getting too comfortable, if people are getting comfortable, a little tap on your shoulder and he'd be like, hey, Toby, did you practice your elimination song? And I'm like, I thought I crushed it. No, he goes, because I didn't that day, because they always say you should just keep your rehearsal up just in case. And that day I didn't, because I don't know if I was just couldn't be bothered or I don't know, but he gently.
Probably rightly so. We're like, I'm not going home. I'm fucking crushed this.
Because Tommy Lee was like always going, you're not going anywhere. And I'm like, well, he pretty much runs the show because he's bigger than the show itself. But sure enough, that next week I was in the bottom 3 and had to fight for my spot. So that's what they do. So that's where it was. A TV show. They would twig some berries here and there, and some people like the guy that
That's great TV though, man. Like
it is good TV, yeah.
And this is the thing that I learned is when you do a TV show, it's about the TV show. It's not about the individuals. It is about the show. And if you go in thinking that it's about you, all the best. Because it's just not. There's good guys, there's bad guys, and they will turn you into whatever they need you to be to benefit the show. So that, you being the Aussie larrikin who's crushing it and doing really well, for him to be in the bottom 3, that's good TV. It's probably not. There's a good chance that was a producer decision because it makes for good TV, but it made for good TV.
Or I was just shit that week. I thought I wasn't, but that's about it. But that is good TV, and you're right. And when you're in it, like luckily growing up in Australia, we're pretty level-headed. I think because of the tall poppy syndrome of the just growing up with the culture of banter, and a compliment is actually pretty much giving you shit, like there's a fine line between a compliment and like real hate speech. And that's, that's Australia.
There's a fine line between a compliment and hate speech. That's great.
Yeah. So every time that someone was like, I'm dear friends with Lucas, the guy that won. I actually caught up with him a couple of weeks ago in Nashville. Every time that I know we were sharing the room together, every time that he had a freak out and he goes, he's like, fuck this T. This is bullshit. They're fucking with my life, man. I go, mate, look where you are. We're in a mansion drinking beer. We have a chef. There's a keg that you can fill up anytime you want.
Yes.
And he goes, yeah, you're right. But like that's the perspective I had, and I think that's probably why I was lucky enough to have like a good little career afterwards, because I think people like were gravitated to that kind of like it's going to be okay personality and not so much drama.
Well, definitely, man. I mean that is one thing that I observed just living in LA in general in the entertainment industry is that attitude is rare. It's super rare.
Yeah.
You know, it's full. So when I moved to LA to do acting, but also to do music, and I knew there's lots of opportunities there. And as a musician, I remember getting there thinking, okay, this is going to be really hard to get seen and get noticed because there's going to be a lot of competition, and the competition's going to be of a much higher caliber. So I've got to try and rise above that. And very quickly, after doing gigs on the Strip and, you know, playing at the Viper Room and the Whiskey and booking these little gigs, I realized, okay, the issue is getting noticed still, but it's not getting noticed above the massive pool of incredibly talented, amazing musicians. It's getting noticed amongst all the shit, because there's all these posers. There's all these people who are actually not very good, who haven't done the work on their craft and worked on their skills, but they've done the work on their outfit and they've done the work on their persona. And that is flashy. It's engaging, it's flashy, and it's eye-catching. But then if you're into it for the music, pretty quickly, unless you're beautifully naturally gifted, which a lot of these folks aren't, it just dies in the ass. So I was like, hang on a minute, these guys look awesome and there's all this hype, but that's not a good song. You're not singing in tune. Like, you're not, like, you know, and again, this kept happening. There was a couple of bands. I remember there was a band called Purple Melon. Do you remember them?
Purple Melon.
So they were British lads who were living in LA, and they were doing the throwback thing, it's kind of like what Shotgun Alley was doing, but it was 70s. So they were doing full on. They wore the flares, and they had,
doing
the
Zeppelin
guy,
kind of stuff, were they?
Totally, and it was like Beatles, Zeppelin, kind of funky 70s classic rock, and it was really good. And they were great players. And there were you guys, Juke Kartel, who were authentic, and you had your own kind of thing. It was maybe sprinkles of U2, maybe, you know, sprinkles of whatever the fuck else you were doing. It was cool. Yeah. And then I remember trying to find, there weren't really many other bands that were like little up and coming bands that were like, these bands could blow up, that were good. And I was thinking,
because
wow,
we grew
this
up
is
in a culture. Yeah, because we grew up in Australia where you kind of had to like rough gig, right? And you get, and you know, with the shittest equipment ever, then you come over to America with that gig, with that match practice, and that's why it does stand out. But you have to be in the scene. That's kind of what it is. Yeah. And I mean, the more that I lived in Hollywood, the more I realized it's just a big city with a lot of makeup, you know, and it's when you go to places like New York and you see the community and you see the underground movements and the real like crazy people who are just thrown together in this fucking city of just, you know, such a transient space. But LA is just not I don't think it's the place for that. Everyone's kind of, like you said, they're just looking for this scene, and then that's about it. Like, I don't really play music in LA anymore, you know?
Well, it's I realized too that it's such an odd town where I realized, it took me a good few months, but I think it was I was so excited to be there when I first moved there. And there's so many opportunities, and I'd been to all the cool places that you see in the movies, and played a couple of gigs in these venues that, you know, played a gig at the Viper Room.
Yeah.
And I think it was about 6 months in, and I realized I don't have any friends. I'd been living in a city for 6 months, and the only friends that I had were people that I already knew, and I'd made no friends. And
you're like outside your circle. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I was, you know, a young, open person. I love people at that, especially at that time. Like I was out and about. I was talking to people. I was doing things, and I was like, I don't have any meaningful connections.
Yeah.
Attack.
Speaking of meaningful connections, he's just attacked our guitar player. So
hey, fair enough. He's doing his job. You know, he's following his instincts.
No, but you're right. You're right. Like I was lucky that like the guys that I play with here, I bumped into them pretty quickly on the street. Like Ben, they were on the bus with Lifehouse and they were watching Rockstar, and Ben, you know, missing Australia, was like, oh, who's that Aussie? This is great. You know, one day it'd be cool to meet him. And sure enough, we met out the front of Saddle Ranch, just randomly walking past each other. And he goes, you're that Australian. I said, I guess so. Yeah. So speak of the devil, I'm doing a podcast. This is him, actually.
I am that Australian.
How are you, brother?
No. Oh, no worries. See, look at that. Hey? Yeah. Synchronicity.
Perfect.
And he and so like I immediately was connected to his circle, which was you know, Bryce, and you know, and he was his buddies with the guitarist from Def Leppard. I remember crash at the Def Leppard guitarist's house, Phil's house, and I'm like, oh, cool. This is amazing. So I was lucky that I was into this already kind of awesome group. And we rolled pretty deep as well. There was like a big group of us running around. But, you know, when a lot of our those friends leave, you start realizing, oh, that's my group, but there's nothing, the community after that is very hard to get connected to in Los Angeles. Did you find that the community wasn't really a community?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
As you said, and you touched on it then, it's so transient. I think so many people, obviously it's a massive city, and that in itself is a problem because I don't think human beings are supposed to be in environments with that many humans. We just can't really connect with that many people. But it's so massive. But there's so many people especially within the industry that we went there for, that come and go. It's so transient, and that's hard to really get to know someone, really rely on someone when they may be gone in 6 months. Or, you know, even a couple of years. It's like, and that happens all the time. And my other theory on this is too, I think that so many people come there to make something of themselves. They leave their hometown, they leave all their friends who know them, and they have this version of themselves that is the LA version, which probably isn't completely authentic, but they can get away with it because they don't know anyone there to call them on their shit. You know, especially if you've come from Australia. I often find that that Aussies over in LA are either really great and really grounded and got their head screwed on, or they're the worst. They're just like, they just become super Americanized and do all
entitled,
these things all these things that in the culture that we live in, I think there's some healthy aspects to the tall poppy syndrome. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of negativity about it, and I think it goes too far sometimes. But there's a lot of healthy stuff about it too. Yeah, where the grounding I think is true. But what I'm learning and what my girl's teaching me as well is not to be so self-deprecating. You know the word. As my dog is licking my foot. You know, like the positive influence into yourself and positive mantras and things like that. But it does help to have a healthy grounding, which Australia gives us. But to continue that thought, though, like I've just made friends with the artist liaison for APRA, you know, the Australian publishing and music. And she's an incredible woman, and we're working together on a project out here involved with Australians for like Australian Festival and things like that, and doing it with my buddy Gary as well. And one of the things is to help Australians feel like there's a community out here and really, really give them that feeling of like, you know, when a musician comes over and I'm on a 3-month visa, I'm going to take over the world. Yeah. It ain't going to work. It doesn't work that way, but people still think like that. Yeah. And so our job is we're trying to educate these kids and actually set up places in Los Angeles and Vegas where they can gig and they can actually make an income. And we spoke with the Consular General, Tanya Bennett, who just took over the reins, and she's very much into the music programs over here. Wow. So if Australian artists are coming over, we're trying to like really look after them a little bit more, which you probably didn't have a lot of looking after in that essence. No, and so, and you know, we even met Kevin Rudd and at G'day LA, and he was all about it too. So there's a really big push to doing that. And I realized how much I miss the Australian community out in Los Angeles, and it's been there the whole time, but no one's really harnessing it like really, really well. So so now we're trying to like really bring it together and try and leave egos at the door and just help each other. And so it could be really good. Yeah. Yeah. Well, on that, like the whole trying to get gigs and trying to get work in general, I remember doing and I still do it here, but before I left, doing the solo acoustic thing in bars and pubs, and that paid the bills. I mean, it still does in my life. I do duos and stuff as well, and it's super common here in Australia.
Yeah.
And in the state, I thought I'll just do that. And I realized pretty quickly that whole pay to play thing. Did you encounter that very much? Where they go, we'll give you a gig.
We were lucky enough. We were lucky enough not to do that, just because of how we kicked off with the show and everything like that.
Yes,
but definitely not the same money. Yeah, but definitely not the same money, and the opportunities. Like in Australia, there's music in a pub like constantly. There's not much of a pub scene where you can find musicians, you know. And that's what one of the things I brought up in the conversation with the Consulate General and things like that, is that we need to have more spaces for just Sunday sessions, or like, you know, more of that musical creation, and not just and that's what we're talking about, finding more venues that can do things like you said, to keep these young artists alive while they're trying to create art, and they're not stressed, and they can afford to live in a city that can give them a big opportunity. So
I love it, man. I hope it goes well. Yeah. You know, keep me posted on that, because I think it's that's something that I would have jumped at that opportunity if knew if it existed when I was there.
I know. Yeah, and then Zoe Badwi, our buddy. Yeah, we were just on the phone with her yesterday, and she's got booked a show out in New York, and she's finding it tough to get that visa and to get across the pond without spending $10,000. Yeah. And so that's one of the things that we're discussing as well, making it easy for you to come in, even if it's just for, 3 weeks to try and, achieve something, just to make it a little easier to get over to work and not have to face all the money that's attached to it. So, because it's still very costly to come over and get a visa and all that kind of stuff.
It's brutal, man. It's ridiculous. How fun's that process? Yeah. That's the fucking worst.
Not fun.
No.
And you don't know if and then you go to the interview and you're like shaking and
And people would always say to me, so what do you think of the States? Have you enjoyed your time? And and I'm like, I don't know anything about the States. I spent all the money that I would on traveling on a fucking visa, and now I'm living off noodles in my apartment.
Yeah,
like I haven't traveled at all. I got no money left.
That apartment that you guys had, my God, that was something else.
That was that was we call okay. So let's do a rundown of Danger Centro, as we called it. It was on a street called El Centro, yeah. And I don't know why we called it Danger Centro. Probably because it was pretty dangerous around there. It was rough. It was like this was an apartment that was on top of a club. The back corner was, and in LA, all the clubs, is at 1 a.m. that the clubs close at?
Yeah, you've got to be out by 2, Yeah. You stop serving drinks at 1:30.
Yep.
This was an after hours, wasn't it?
Not this place. Yeah, this was an illegal after hours club that managed to operate below my bedroom. Yep. It was, and there was like mice in there, and we would catch the mice in these like humane traps that would get them stuck, take them off, and then put them in the club because the club would keep us away. And I thought, this is a brilliant idea. I'm going to catch these mice and release them in the club, and then they'll get shut down. That's what it'll shut down this illegal nightclub. Mice. Didn't work.
That's it.
Yeah.
No, not at all. Yeah.
That was a real time, man. Basically
on Hollywood. So that's the place I bought. That's where I moved. I bought it. Yeah, that's where we moved in.
Yeah, perfect. Lick of paint, mate. What could go wrong?
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, totally.
Fucking hell. Yeah, dude. It's So how's the pipes? How's your voice? You were talking before about you've been doing a bunch of work and how's your vocal health?
Very, very good health. Like I found these little. I was lucky enough to do like an off-Broadway show. That's where I met my girl. So I got to spend a lot of time with a soprano and a tenor who had played all the Carnegie and all those places, and I would learn a lot of little skills from them.
Those theatre cats, they know, man. They know what they're doing, don't they?
I do, yeah. I do, because, you know what it's like in theatre, because you've done theatre yourself. You did chess, didn't you? Is that
I
the
did,
one?
And I was going to say I learned so much from the cast that were just like one of the guys was an opera guy. And he had way more singing than me and way harder stuff. And he was just a powerhouse every night, and the vocal coach teaching me so much stuff. It's a different beast.
It is, particularly because in rock and roll, it's not, you don't think about, I've got to do my vocal warm up. It wasn't, back in the day, it was kind of like you didn't really treat it like that. Well, and then I'm like, well, I kind of have to because I had surgery in.
Oh, you did?
2015, yeah. Because even on Rockstar, I had them. That's why it was just really tough to do those 4 a.m. things and then go on the road for 3 years afterwards and try and keep up with it. It just kind of started like wearing down. But after that, I just got, therapy and singing lessons, and I've been really looking after it. Hydrating, little tricks that you find, particularly from those opera guys.
Isn't it funny? I you hear about these guys like Jimmy Barnes and Axl Rose and all these people just doing a whole bottle of vodka and just blasting coke the whole show and just screaming their asses off. and then if you even do a fraction of any of that and try and sing for more than one day at a time, I mean, a mere mortal like myself, I'm like, I can't do this. I can't sing. There's no singing now.
Yep.
I'm done.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
It's I don't know how.
I'll tell you one thing that I love. The oil of oregano, or oil of oregano, we say in Australia. It's it's very potent. You can put it in your little Italian salads, but you get a vial of it and you just put
stick it in your eye.
You stick it in your eye, and then you put the vial down, and it lubricates and breaks down the mucus on your vocal cords. That was one of the tips. So I carry that everywhere I go, and it's also a good, healthy. It's good for your immune system. So tastes like shit.
Yes,
so that's a good one.
Okay,
and bromelain tablets, which is pineapple extract.
I've heard of this. I spoke to a vocal coach recently, and she was recommending bromelain. What is its mechanism of action? How does that work?
So pineapple, it reduces swelling in your joints and in your muscles or in things that are stressed. So the whole, like, particularly for my girl, she takes bromelain. It works with her like incredibly. But yeah, it's supposed to just relax your vocal cords and even your joints and things like that. So bromelain's
just in like a capsule. It's not a
little capsule. Yeah, it's like just extract that's been broken down into a capsule. Yeah.
Wow.
That's a good one.
That's interesting. And because it is at the end, when you really dive into it, it's all about inflammation and managing inflammation, isn't it? You get tired, and it's because it's just like any other muscle. You've overworked it. It's inflamed. It's swollen.
You've picked up a job where you talk all day as well. So now you have to like be conscious of that.
Dude, I find that I need to see a speech pathologist because I get tired. My voice gets hoarse and tired after doing a podcast sometimes. And obviously, like, I'm not talking that long. It's like 2 hours, 2.5 at the most. And I'm talking for half of that. And I'm obviously speaking from the wrong place. Well, because I've found that, and tell me if this is the same for you. I can do a gig, 3-4 hour acoustic gig or a 2 hour long set, full band, full rep rockin' gig. And I get to the end of the gig. Yeah, I'm a little tired, a little bit hoarse, but that's just inflammation. It's just standard swelling. It's like a vocal pump almost. And the next morning, you're a little tired, but it's cool. It's not damage. But if I talk to people for 20 minutes in between sets or after the gig, toast, gone. It's the talking over noise.
That's how you're using your voice. It sounds like, and particularly if you're a little tired, you get lazy and you start talking through your, like, so I try and talk above this area, which is kind of like what you do with your singing anyway. And I just, because I had the surgery, I think it just became natural now where I don't get tired talking as much anymore. But I've got to be aware of it. That's all.
Yeah.
So your vocal coach will probably have to like take you through a little speech therapy again because, you have a little husky voice, and I used to have a really husky voice, and it was always because I was talking like this and just pushing.
I've
through
been a little
here.
bit sick too, so it's extra
crispy.
Extra crispy, yeah. Something that I've noticed in your voice of the last few years when you've, and credit straight back to you, I appreciate, the kind words you were saying before, when you do some homework on your voice and you learn how to use it, man, you've unlocked some Cornell level heights, which is a real treat to hear you pull off time and time again. Because, talking about someone like Chris Cornell, man, what a singer, such a legacy that he's left. But in reality, if you do a little bit of a YouTube party and find Chris Cornell live, it's hit and miss, man. The times when he's good, he's incredible. But the times quite like it's probably 50% of the time he couldn't do it. He actually just physically couldn't pull off the thing that he had created. And you can, as a singer, listening to it and seeing him and hearing him, I'm going, he's tired. I get it. I know exactly what's going on here. He's not quite using right technique, and he's fucking tired vocally. He needs a rest.
Yeah.
But it's something that I learned, and I know you know it because you're talking about it now and I've heard you do it, is when you unlock the pharyngeal resonator instead of trying to belt everything, trying to yell everything as high as you can push your chest.
Yeah.
You bring it up into your nose. That
and it's the middle voice that you're activating your middle voice, which is something I discovered from a teacher called Roger Love, and he teaches like Joe from Def Leppard. He puts them on the road. So I was lucky enough to get a few sessions with him, and it's all about the middle voice, which is that the in between the chest and the falsetto, and it really is. It enables you to sing those Axl Rose bits without any pressure. And it feels kind of ethereal when you do it because it's kind of, this is kind of horny, when you nail it, because it just takes you to it's an out of body experience. But you have to like really, like we do, like Bryce and I on the way to the gigs, we always do like a 30-minute in the car before we get to the Cosmopolitan out here. And it's all about the middle voice. So, and you can always tell if I'm a little tired, you don't get the technique, and then you like get a little frustrated. So you have to stick at it and work the technique until you get that feeling of just freedom, not it's just freedom. And so,
and it's not the one thing that I've learned, and tell me if this is the same for you, but it's really not very loud, even though we're doing rock singing and there's a certain element of gravel and aggression to rock singing. I've learned that those high notes, and when I really get into the mixed voice or the middle voice, it's really not that loud at all. It's quite quiet, but you use a microphone.
Yeah, you got the technique. Yeah, like I think like not a lot of singers, but singers forget that the sound guy and the microphone is supposed to be doing the projection. Yeah. If you can just get that right, like, because otherwise, the more you sing into a microphone, it's like we were just doing the mic test before. That's not going to help. It's going to be your technique and the person operating it for you. So, you forget that when although growing up playing in pubs in Australia, some of the equipment we used was just, the foldbacks were just like,
you can't hear a thing.
Fucking the 60s. Yeah. So, but,
I did it, dude. I did a gig the other day. This was really funny. We had was the Filthy Animals, and we had Angry Anderson. He was doing a set and I was doing a set, and so Angry's come in. Angry's in his mid-70s now, and so they're doing a sound check, right? And Angry's got no in-ears, and I always sing with in-ears for this exact reason. Whereas it's like, it's not my job to make sure the audience can hear me. It's my job to sing well and preserve my voice. And in order to do that, I'll sing as quietly as I need to, and you can turn me up, sound guy. And that's as soon as you embrace that, if someone's like, "Oh, we couldn't really hear you," it's like, that's not my job. My job's to sing. They've got to fix the PA.
Why don't you sing louder? It's like, that's not my job.
Have you heard a guitar? Have you heard a snare drum? It's like, have you heard a guitar?
Exactly.
There's a fucking 120 watt quad box right there. They've got no chance whatsoever.
Yeah.
And Angry, so he's got no in-ears. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is interesting. I guess, he's old school. Maybe he uses in-ears at times, but he wasn't for this gig. And he's got his wedges, and he's saying, they do a little sound check, and he's saying to the little the monitor engineer, who's a young bloke, he's probably 20 at the oldest. He's got his iPad, and Angry's going, "Yeah, listen up, youngster. Need a little bit more sizzle. Sibilance. Where's the sizzle?" And he's like, "Oh, okay, cool." So he's trying to dial it in, and Angry's and they do another song, and Angry goes, "How you going on that sizzle, youngster?" And he's going, "Oh, okay." So he's obviously pushing the high end on these monitors, and Angry kept going at him, "Mate, you're close, but we need more sizzle." And I realized that pretty quickly. I was like, man, there's no more top end that you can get out of those monitors. I just feel like you've lost the top end in your ears, man. It just doesn't, you can't hear it anymore.
Yep. Dude, and they don't want to, those old dogs don't want to put in-ears in. They don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Yep. They get those fucking things away from me.
Yeah, they hate them. Yeah, and it's like, and then the argument quite often is, I need to be able to hear the crowd. I'm like, I don't want to fucking hear the crowd. Like half of them, half of them come up, and a woman at that same gig came up and asked me. She was adamant that we swap shirts in the middle of the gig. I was like, I'd be so much, and I had to pull my ear out to hear her say, do you do it
condescendingly sometimes? Do you do it condescendingly? Where you go, do you do it condescendingly? Where you go, oh, you do this, you go, oh, yeah, what's that? You know, and you make it like an effort, and so they feel bad for asking you. No,
yes. Well, the other trick I find is if someone's really, really giving you a lot of lip, you just respond to them on the microphone, so everyone can hear it, and then everyone's attention comes to them, and then they realize that, oh shit, hang on, I actually didn't want everyone in the room to be looking at me. They just wanted to be drunk and
Brycey put together, so Bryce is a bass player in our band. He designed a T-shirt that we have backstage or on the stage every night just in case. And it says, I'm the person that yells out Freebird. And it's a T-shirt. We've given away 2 so far because, you know, every once in a while the crowd, someone will go, Freebird. And Bryce is like, yeah, you want a T-shirt. And it'll be like, I'm the person that yells out Freebird. And that's the T-shirt.
Great. So that's great.
But because we have the in-ears, we have the ambient. We have ambient microphones, so we can hear a little bit of the back chat, you know.
That's perfect because then you can, get a bit of vibe from the audience. You don't have to
get a bit of vibe,
yell over everything. You can, that's great.
And you can do this as well. It's like, I can't hear you, you know,
yeah. These are actually the in-ears that I wear. In fact, these are my gig in-ears because they're the most discreet ones to do these podcasts.
Yep.
So,
okay, there you go. Yeah. Nice one, buddy.
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny those old cats that they've got their ways that they do things, and that's just the way it is, you know.
It is, mate. Yeah, but I'm all about preserving my voice because you never know, you know, after going through that trauma, I never want to do that again. So
so talk to me about that. What was because I mean, I know every singer has slight paranoia about, I'm going to get nodules, I'm going to get polyps. If you're a working singer and you do it a lot, every single one of us is like, fuck, because this is like a painter losing his arm. That's you know, this could jeopardize everything. It could be gone. So what happened to your voice in the lead up to that, and how did it feel? And then I want to know about what the surgery process was like.
Yeah, so it was just it was kind of like singing into a sponge in a way where you just couldn't. I only had certain range and then when you try and push it, I was just trying to push more air, which made me even more tired. And so my vocal cords were just continually rubbing together, and it just got to a stage where it got so big that I was unable to kind of, you know, do 2 octaves, you know.
So just so people know what is actually happening, your vocal cords, they're vocal folds really, and they're these 2 things that, like folds of skin that rub together and vibrate together very, very fast. And then as you go higher, they kind of zip up, and as they go lower, they stretch out. And when you get a polyp or a nodule, it's essentially scar tissue that builds up like a callus. Right, so that there's a lump.
A callus and rubbing together, and
so it doesn't close properly, so that it's breathy rather than right.
And you can hear it in the microphone as well. Like I think I actually burst a blood vessel in the polyp.
Fuck.
And
so you
was
really
at rehearsal, and I went. It almost like sounded like a snap into the microphone.
Oh wow!
And I was like. And then I tried to do therapy for like 2 weeks, and then basically I had to go to the Dr. Nasiri, which is I walked into the waiting room to like get my, you know, for him to check me out, and Justin Timberlake was leaving, and you know he just had Chad Kroger, and then you know Steven Tyler had been there, and you know all these guys had been in there, not necessarily as bad as mine, but they went through the same situation where they're like, you know, and he was the best. I was very lucky that my management team took me to the best, made me feel at ease. But I have the pictures. Sorry, my dog is crying. I have the pictures still, and it's horrendous. It's like this big red lump, and he went in there, and he's basically like did plastic surgery on my vocal cord, and it came out beautifully. And then I just trained it, and I gained even more range, which I hadn't had for a long time.
They laser it.
They get a little laser. I think he had to slice. Mine was so big, he had to slice it first, and then he had to get the laser, and the laser essentially just smoothed it over, and then got rid of all the scar tissue. And I remember waking up, and you know, he looked at me and he goes, "Fucking perfect." You know, I hope, and I said, I hope. Oh, I didn't say it, but I wrote, "I hope I never see you again." And then that was it. So, and then I had 7 weeks of no talking, and
that would have been quite a spiritual experience.
I learnt how to be really grumpy, and then I also learnt that people didn't like me at that time in my life. It was maybe I'd been a little bit shit. It was because all I could do was go, you know, what I'm trying to, you don't even know what it's like. And they're like, shut the fuck up.
It's great. You needed one of those like Stephen Hawking, you don't understand what this is like for me, you know, little gadget things.
Exactly. I know, but I had a paper and pen, and, you know, obviously you could do the text messagey thing. And, but in the end, sometimes when people are having conversations around you, when you're just sitting there, you just want to be alone. You know, you just want to go away.
Yeah, like you can't.
But it was. If any singers are watching this, you know, vocal health is more important than trying to be cool. That's all I can say. It's way more important to look after yourself, because you're not going to be cool with no voice. That's for sure. So, yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Okay. So 7 weeks. So 2 months of no speaking.
Yeah. And then 3 days a week with a singing teacher, and they're not cheap.
No,
yeah, they're not cheap. Those singing teachers. You probably know. Did you get singing lessons out here in LA?
I never did in LA. No.
Yeah, it depends on what you like. They were expensive. But you know, it's like anything. You know, I don't buy keyboards. I don't buy guitars or drums. I'm buying that for my health, and that's what my investment is my instrument, the voice. So, it was good to come back, and then your first gig back is like you're just so careful, you know, you're really, really careful.
Yeah.
You know, and then the after party, you're kind of like, nah, I'm good. You know, let me just warm up a little bit, you know, and but that was tough.
It's really beautiful that you were given, that it worked, and that you were given a second chance, and you haven't squandered that. Not only that, but you have learned from it, and you are now a better singer, a more capable singer, and a more conscious person because of it.
Yeah. And and hopefully, you know, what I went through is I can share that story with others, not to do the same. I'm also like, you know, I'm getting older, and hopefully responsibilities are a bit more embedded, you know, looking after, you know, like caring for yourself. But, you know, and we have a great setup here with the boys in the band. You know, we have we have a no drink policy before we go on and all that kind of stuff, which is, you know, it's pretty simple, but we're in Vegas, and sometimes it's just thrown at you, you know, and we've got to be aware that sometimes, I think our longest show was 4.5 hours for one of our clients.
No.
And well, he just kept on just throwing, I'll up your pay, and then, you know, why not, you know?
Wow.
So if you're drinking, there's no way you can't do that, you know? So.
Nah. And you can't, you can't maintain that. Like this is, you know, it's funny. There's this meme that goes around every now and again, and it's an image of, it was back in the day when Justin Bieber was doing a tour, and he had to cancel some shows because he got sick. He got a cold. He got a flu. He was sick.
Yeah.
And then the other picture, and it was like, oh, sorry, I can't do the gig. I've got a sniffle. And then the other picture is Zach Wilde shredding on guitar with blood all over the fretboard. And it was like, the show goes on, pussy, or something like that. And I was like, yeah, cool, Zach Wilde, fuck yeah, that's metal. But then as a singer, everyone, back then it was cool to hate on Justin Bieber, and he's been through his own thing or whatever. But it was like, I never thought I'd be defending Justin Bieber over Zach Wilde. And granted, Zach Wilde's got nothing to do with this other than the picture, But the people who made this, it's like, you ever try and talk when you've got a cold? You even try, like, when you're proper sick, if you've got the flu and you're actually ill, it's hard work getting out of bed and going to the toilet, let alone doing a show.
Phones, and 80,000 people with phones to show how shit you were that night. You know, like,
You can't do it. You can't, it's a human instrument. The voice goes, no. And also, like, if you've got a fever and you can't, and you're just like ill, it's like, forget about it. It's not an easy thing. And but the meme itself is like, oh yeah, blood and, rock and roll, so much better than, I've always found that funny because I've never gotten to the point where you were at, but I have more recently actually gotten close. I went and saw an ENT and had an endoscopy to look at my vocal cords. I've had that 3 or 4 times in my life, and it's always been good. This most recent time, I was having some vocal fatigue. I was doing 3-4 hour solo acoustic gigs a weekend consistently. That was and it's just too much, man. 12 hours of singing every weekend. Yeah, it's too much.
That's a lot, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just and
so what was that? What did you see?
She was like, she showed me the footage and she was talking to me the whole time, and she said, okay, so she did a freeze frame on the video, and she goes, right there you have a little blood vessel, a little bit, it's basically like bruising on the vocal fold. There's tiny bit of swelling, but there's one point on either side where it's a little bit red, and it's basically it's sore. And she said, you're fine now, but that will turn into a polyp if you don't rest. And I was like, okay, so what do I do? Just be completely brutally honest with me. What should I do to heal this? And she said, you need to take off. She goes, I realistically would be taking off 3 months if you can. She goes, 2 months. But if you can take off 2 months or more, you should do it from no singing. So I did it. Oh
wow! Yeah. Okay, are you in the middle of it now, or you've already done it?
I've done it, and it was okay. It was great. It did the trick. So now it's something that I haven't had another. I haven't gone back to see her again because it's super expensive to go and do that.
Yeah,
but I know that it's not the same because I can just feel it. It's just not. It's not there anymore. It's calmed down, and it was at the point where it was an overuse injury that would calm down over time, rather than a scar tissue callus that is less inclined to heal itself. Like, I don't know what would have happened to you if you had just gone, right, 6 months, I'm not going to sing at all, and I'm just going to do passive vocal rest rather than surgery. I don't know. Can that heal? Do you know if that can?
I went through that already before it got to that stage, but then also that was my main income. Like, it just
you got to pay the bills.
I had like 8 other people relying on it. So it just got to that stage where I was just overworked and then had to get it done.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, you being able to get that rest is like, God, thank God for that. But it's the same. Okay, so it's like a football player with a ligament in his knee that's got a twinge. What do they do? They're not going to rush him back in, unless it's the grand final. Put him on as much drugs as he can. But
and sometimes they do, and it ruins their career.
Well, exactly. And I'm sure you've taken cortisone before. I have taken cortisone to stop the swelling and all that kind of stuff. But then you don't want to rely on that because it's just a Band-Aid. So yeah, mate, we've got a tough job, don't we?
It's the human instrument thing is a challenging one. Like, you got to.
Yeah, well, even the guitarist, like Benny, like, he's a basketball player as well, he's very conscious that his hands are his job, and just, that's you have to look after everything you do, so.
Yeah. It's the challenge of sometimes you wake up and your voice. So you were saying you're doing like a half hour warm up. I went through a phase where I was doing a half hour every time at least, because this is when I was singing in shotgun, because it was super high. The guy before me just had this Michael Jackson style voice, singing super high, and I had none of that. So I had to learn how to unlock all that part of my voice, and it required me to do a lot of warming up. And now I've realized that I have the problem where I can get too warm, and if I'm doing a 2-hour long full band gig singing songs like Run to Paradise, I realize that I do a couple of tests beforehand. I go, okay, time to warm up before the gig, right? And if if there's a certain part of my voice like that, if I can do that, I'm like, cool, it's there, good. It's warm, I'm good. I just need to warm up my agility so that my pitching accuracy is on, because that's by far my weakest thing. I'm super pitchy at the best of times. So I've got to make sure my agility is strengthened so that I can at least try and sing in tune. And then I'm like, that's it, no more, because I've got 2 hours of singing to come up. Whereas in the past, I've made the mistake of doing the full warm up and then get to the gig and I'm exhausted.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, like my teacher always said, if you can do in between your 15 to 30 minutes, and then have like 20 minutes before you go on of just, because it's like a muscle. It's not going to just go back to itself. It's going to stay a little warm, and then you're not draining the battery. So let's wait 15 minutes before you go on, and you should be good to go, hopefully. Totally. Yeah, I don't like to over warm up. But I that being said, I was backstage with Miles Kennedy when we were touring with Slash's band, and his warm ups were. I was like, oh man, you're a monster. Like he was over and over, just like like you, and then you just go out and. I'm like, motherfucker.
He's a perfect example, though, of he's got that honky pharyngeal quality. Yeah. And when you learn how to sing that way, there's not really any strain. It's so free. It's so and he just does that perfectly. Like if you ever want to describe what does the pharyngeal resonator sound like, it's Miles Kennedy. He's all over that.
Yeah.
And so it's no wonder that he can warm up for so much and do that night after night. Like, and he's been doing it for so long, and there's been no point where I've seen any live footage of him where I haven't been impressed. There's been nothing. No,
he's on. He's very disciplined, and that was another really cool learning curve being on the road with those guys. Just seeing the discipline. That was invaluable.
Alter Bridge, what a cool band, hey.
I know. Yeah, you were a big Alter Bridge fan, weren't you?
I fucking love those guys.
You love the Tremonti.
I feel like you don't love Alter Bridge as much as I love Alter Bridge, Toby.
No, I don't. But
it's okay.
That's okay. We can all love different bands.
That's true. Our beliefs don't define us.
But you're wrong.
Yeah. Who do you fucking love so we can shit on them?
Angry Anderson, mate. Give us some sizzle.
More sizzle.
You know what? He should have been the spokesperson for fucking Sizzler. That would have been incredible. Come on, mate. More sizzle.
Or at least Bunnings out the front with the sausages.
Yeah. That's a good one. I miss Bunnings.
Yeah. Bunnings is great, man. Yeah. I was there. I go there at least once a week. What are you working on creatively at the moment?
Creatively?
Yeah, as far as because just creative energy in general is a challenging thing. I have found. I know you're a very creative person, and I've tried to squash it in myself at times when I need to get on with things and get things done, but it forces me. Right. Well, it doesn't force me, but I find it's very easy to drag me laterally, and I come up with all these ideas, but following through is quite challenging. Finishing.
I like that.
Something.
I actually like that, the way that you describe that laterally, because so the following through is incredible, because it's like like anything, if you're creating something for yourself, right, it's your brand, it's you. You still need something to help it get out. Like you still need some sort of outlet. You know, you're doing a podcast and you're doing it all yourself. This is your outlet. You're lucky that you have like a channel and you have, you know, distribution to put it out. This is yours. And so you're completing this right now, right? But I'm sure you have a lot of other creative ideas that you have, which I do. I have a lot.
That are just on the boil.
Of the things
yeah. And I will do them.
Exactly.
But I don't know when.
Yeah. And also, it's also like I have this, not a fear, but I have a reluctancy to put something out in case it's not done the right way. And
dude, I saw this thing, sorry to cut you off, man, but I saw this thing that changed my view on that exact thing. It was talking about perfectionists and creatives being perfectionists. Right. And I think it was the 80% rule. And if you can adopt this 80% rule, that if you get something, a project and you get it to 80%, you must release it to the wild because it will never get to 100% as a creative and as a perfectionist. It doesn't exist. So if you can adopt this mentality of the 80% rule, then you have to just come to terms with the fact that I'm putting it out there and it'll be what it'll be, and then you can move on to the next thing. So I totally get it.
Because if you hold on to these things, you're actually essentially blocking the next creation, or which could you know be even more rewarding. You know, that being said, I'm working in my original band Ashen Moon, which is, you know, with Gary on bass from INXS and two incredible musicians from LA, and we have like our single coming out next month, which is great, and we're going to roll out probably another 7 this year, which is awesome. So, and we're not putting any I'm not going, this is going to change the world. It is exactly what we talked about. It has to come out now because I can't sit with this music any longer because I want to see what's next, and I want to do other things, write other music, and I don't want to have a backlog of all these ideas just like haunting me, you know.
And they do. That's a great way to put it, man.
Do.
Like we've all done that thing where you have a song and then you revamp the song a year later and then you do another version of it again. And you're like, I've just got to get this one right. And then I'll do all these other ones. And they're just like, you know, eating away at you until you just go, just get it out.
And then someone goes, I really liked it when you did it 5 years ago, just really rough. And you're like, and you're like, me too.
Yeah.
And you go, me too, actually. Yeah.
That's it. I totally
it happens.
Yeah, but it's a hard thing to embrace, that idea of because it's vulnerable, man. When you create something, be it a podcast, be it a song, be it a poem. When you create something from nothing and you offer it up to the world, it's like it's in a way it's one of your babies. You offer it up to the world and go, what do you think? And sometimes the world will just destroy it and tear it down and or even worse, completely ignore it.
Ignore it, yeah.
That's the worst. I'd much rather people hate it than they say nothing.
You say nothing, it's like, well, it's not really relevant.
You're like, hello? I did a thing. I did something. Nobody?
Yeah. I was just going to make a cup of tea. What was that? Yeah.
You forget about that thing that I just.
But I have like other outlets. So I work. One of my great friends, Alex, who he's an incredible producer. He works in TV and film. So we write music together. So we've had some hits with writing for animations and TV shows. So that's another little outlet that I'm lucky enough to be a part of. Because LA, you can find work if you're tenacious enough. You can find work outside of being on the stage, which is, half the reason why I'm here, because there's a lot of demo work you can do at home, like sing remotely for different soundtracks or whatever it is, which is really rewarding.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, just like, that's why I think staying in America right now, the opportunities are a little bit broader for me.
Huge.
While I'm here. Yeah.
And so are you guys doing many shows with Ashen Moon?
We're probably we'll probably roll out a few, Yeah. It's just more like getting it out, We've got a new management and he's pushing for things, We'll see how the song tracks. We've got a good little team behind it. If there's some interest, maybe. I don't know. It's just I'm not as like pent up and like trying to break down the rock and roll walls and go, here we are. I feel like
we're the biggest
want to just
band in the world,
I just want to be good. I just want to put out what I think is good stuff.
Yeah.
And let it organically happen.
Yeah.
Not force it. And I think that's what I think we did a lot of, is forcing. Well, I did back in the day. So, yeah.
Isn't it a beautiful place to get to when you realize playing to a room full of people, even if that room only fits 200, who want to be there to hear you play music, and you realize that you don't need any. That's it. This is it. I'm there. I've made it. Like that's a beautiful experience. Like 200 people is a lot of people. Like you sit and talk individually with 200 individuals. That's a shitload of people.
Yeah.
Like it's a really special thing to be able to get up there and play music in front of that many people, and anything beyond that. Yeah. It's like, wow, that's a real bonus. But do you get more fulfilled do you become enlightened if you play to 20,000 people? Like, do you achieve a new,
I think you become a little bit more disconnected. I would imagine, because like I don't know about you, but the stage is my safe place. Like there's a reason why I didn't like going to nightclubs back in the day. And I like being on stage. It's just like, I just feel safer there.
Totally agree.
But I like it in like rooms like our residency that we have out here. It's around 200 people, but it's just pulsating and it's connected. It's awesome.
Yeah, you can see faces.
You can see faces, and then when you're on big stages, when you're on big stages, like it's a great experience, but it does feel very naked and feel very like a little bit too far. But it's great because if you can attract that many people, but I feel like I'm going back to how it started, and it feels really good, and I feel like I'm appreciating it way more than I did when I first did it. So that's good.
That's really beautiful, man. Isn't that interesting how we start something and you don't really know what you're doing. You don't really know what you want. You see Foo Fighters playing at Wembley in front of 90,000 people, and you're like, I think that's it. That's what we'll be better than that, and whatever it is. And meanwhile, you're playing to these small rooms of people who are just diehards and who are loving it. But that's not enough. And then you get a taste of the other stuff, and then you realize, oh, you know what? Actually, maybe where I was a really beautiful existence. Yeah.
And I think that the people who really enjoyed music, like you mentioned Foo Fighters, right? But those guys would just turn up at small clubs all the time and jam, and that's what is awesome about. Oh, that's one thing I do miss about LA, actually, is just those jam nights where all of a sudden someone would just be like there, and you're like, holy shit, this is cool.
Yeah.
It's a little few and far between, I think, now, but that was really special. But that being said, I think we did a big stage not long ago, and it felt good to kind of have room, I guess, to like run around and be a little bit, but
and not have a crash cymbal smashing you in the back of the head basically every time,
or Bryce just like smacking me with the thing. So no, it's true. But
those small stage woes of like, there's no room to even turn around.
I love those videos, with those old guys, and then, like they get into a fight because they're all this fucking piece of shit.
They're the best, kicking a hole in the bass drum. And
I know. We've had a few of those back in the day in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Like, remember our guitarist Dale, he had his, he used to work in a golf course, and he had like the end of year drinks, and then we had the gig afterwards. I think he had 1,000 beers, and he turned into a
gremlin.
He walked up to the gig, and he was already just like
mutant,
mate. 3 songs in, he's fallen. And
no!
Somehow pushed me. I cracked my tooth. It was just like one of those things. Luckily, I loved him. Otherwise, it would have been those moments of like, you fucking get away with him. But I remember just cutting to the end of the night, and he's getting carried out by his mum and his sister, like just,
And knowing Dale, he still would have been ripping amazing solos, but he just couldn't stand up.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't actually. This was the one night that he didn't do it.
Yeah, he didn't have it. His superpower was watered down for once.
Yeah. And then there was another one with Tommy, the bass player, wherein he got so stoned in between sets that he sat on stage with his bass and played like this. He was like playing Blister in the Sun, like ding, 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 like just screaming out. And then Todd didn't make it back. And Todd didn't even make it back in. He was throwing up outside. So we were like down to a 4-piece and Tommy was sitting on stage. It was just like, what's happening?
Jesus. Yeah, so, just trying to hold on to whatever remaining consciousness that he had.
Yeah, and we were 40 at that time. So.
It is interesting trying to play music when you are enhanced, shall we say.
It's the worst.
There's not much that I personally can do that makes it any better. Like it's I can maybe have two tequilas or something like that, and I'm in a good place. Depending on you just get a little bit loose, and I can still cognitively be conscious enough to go, okay, support the breath, support this big note that's coming up. But loose enough to not have any inhibitions from whatever my own ego is on stage. But anything beyond that, like even being stoned, like it's just
like why would someone do that?
Yeah, isn't it an interesting thing that there are guys who think that is what you have to do? They're just drug addicts. They're just getting fucked up all the time when they're playing gigs.
Yeah,
it's always been fascinating how that was such a part of the culture.
The drinking's definitely part of the culture. Like, remember the rider? Like you pick your rider. There was an option for food, but you never really had food, did you? You're like, we just want 1,000 beers.
Yeah, what do you mean? What are we going to sit down and have a meal? Like what? No. Yeah. Does the meal come in bags? We're not doing this. We're not. But I've always thought it is interesting how you hear about these people who in bands who are. You take away the band and it's like, oh, you guys are drug addicts. You guys are just junkies.
It's just you can't function without it.
Yeah. It's
look at this guy. Sorry, I have to do this, but this guy has been staring. He has been like literally up my butt this whole time.
Do you want to put him on your lap?
He's a big boy.
Yeah, get him up.
Do you want to come up here? Come on, here we go. Come here. Oh, come. This is the boy. Here we go.
Oh, hi, Mr. Dude.
This is Bowie.
Bowie's not happy with the attention being shared.
No, he's like, it's walk time. That's why the sun's gone down. It's not 1,000 degrees, and he needs to go and pee. But he needs to relax. But
hey, Bowie, listen, man. Let's wrap it up then, so you can take Bowie out for a walk, brother.
Well, mate. Yeah, listen, it was great to talk. Like, I love that we didn't even discuss what we're going to talk about, and I presume that's the way that you approach every conversation with your people you've had on so far.
Yeah. I don't really want to do an interview. I just want to have a discussion, and especially with someone like you. We've been mates for a very long time, known each other for years, and just a recorded catch up and hang, really, man.
It is actually. It's a focused catch up because sometimes when you catch up with your mates, there's other distractions. It's a great avenue to kind of get because we haven't talked a lot about particularly the vocal health stuff. Like I feel like that was actually really rewarding to talk about because I'm conscious of it, but it's a great reminder to have a check-in. You probably had a little check-in with yourself just then as well, and I'll share those little tips that I got with you, and you can try them out.
It's easy for that stuff to just kind of fall by the wayside, but it's so important, and it's we all have our own way of doing these things, but it's really important to learn. You use your voice. We both do a very similar thing, You know, we're both rock singers fronting loud fucking bands, doing it often. And it's no matter what scale you're at, you got to be able to learn from other people because, I mean, your voice has transformed, dude. Like I always respected you as a singer, even, you know, back in the Rockstar days. But there's been a drastic shift in your ability and range that is impossible to miss, and that doesn't happen by accident. You obviously very. I mean, obviously the surgery, I did have trauma all the way through Rockstar that I was able to kind of just avoid and carry on. But then it got overwhelmingly bad. Yeah. But yeah, it's like anything. It's like and just to add to that as well, like that really affected my mental health as well. All of a sudden, it was just like it was really, really shit. I actually wrote. I've got with the Ashen Moon. I've actually got a song, and it's actually called "The World Waits on You." And I remember, and whenever I play the song to myself, it's actually really cathartic now. But I wrote the song, and the imagery is me in my room, unable to really express myself, and there's rain beating against the window, and text messages saying, "Hey, mate, you're going to come out in Hollywood tonight?" And I'm like, "No, I can't." And it was like I had two choices to make. I can wallow and look for another path, which is not music, or try something else, or I could do the work. And I had to do the work, and that's what the world was waiting for. It's like everyone's in there, like this new single that we're doing as well. It's called God Tank, and it's the vision of we get all this information that's plugged into us, you know, whether we watch TV or it's propaganda, or we all, you know, watch the same TV show, whatever it is. We all get this information, but we all decipher it completely different to each other. And that's your version of your world. And what I was going through, I was so dark that I thought that I thought that it's all about me. I was very selfish as well, because I was, you know, like, you don't understand. And I'm like, well, how selfish was that? Everyone has a place in them that has some darkness and some things they need to work on. But I was so oblivious and very selfish because I thought it's all about me because I'm the one suffering with this trauma. And that's why writing that song was like, that was my version of the world. And, you know, you're not different from anyone else. You just have to do the work and just get back out there. So that was a real mature learning experience for me anyway, that period. Yeah. Really, really, really liberating journey you went through by the sounds of it.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's it, buddy.
Cool, man. Yeah. I mean, that's fucking scary because you were faced with the potential of you're never going to be the thing that you think that you are ever again. That was potentially there.
And you're like 10,000 miles away from Australia, and, you know, your community gets a little smaller and you feel even more alone.
Yeah. Will people still love me if I can't do the thing that I think that I'm meant to do? What's my place in the world? Yeah, that's dark.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But, you know, like I said, you know, everyone has things that you got to, you know, like I find value from caring for other people, and I learned that not to be so selfish and just do the work, and then, you know, and don't sit and wallow, try and see what's wrong and try and maneuver your way out of it, you know.
Well said, man. Yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
All right, bro. Awesome. Look, let's call it on that. That's a beautiful sentiment to leave this.
It's good. I've got these chapped lips. I'm like,
you got a dog chewing.
It's
your
so
feet.
dry. I've got the paw cream from Australia.
Get it on.
I just need to get it on. I was just like, it's so dry.
Just dive in.
It's like
slather. Yeah.
These old crusty lips of mine, just like
you might need
sucking
to upgrade
on microphones every night.
Yeah, upgrade to some engine lubricant or something for that desert
exactly.
air. You know? Brother, this is awesome, man. It's really great to see you.
Yeah, buddy.
I'm really stoked to hear that you're in good physical and vocal health, and let's keep in touch, brother.
All right, brother. Appreciate you, man. Congrats on the podcast, mate. Killing it. Love you. Give my love to the family, and let's get some more kids in your life. Let's go.
Fuck, man. Barely keeping alive with one, but I appreciate it.
I know.
Love you, times. See you,
All
mate.
right, brother. Love you, mate. See you soon.